Hi, my name is Sandra Adams, and this is my story of my journey to becoming a climate activist. It starts in Alberta, Canada, where I was born in an oil patch, quite literally. My dad was a petroleum engineer, and he and my mom lived in an oil town, drilling town. And he was a successful petroleum engineer. In fact, he was one of the people who helped develop the infamous tar sands in Alberta. But at the same time, my dad was an environmentalist of sorts. He was a nature lover. He was a mountaineer. He climbed all the mountains in Banff National Park. He took us regularly hiking and camping and communing with nature, and for him it was actually a spiritual thing. And at the time, of course, in the 70s, and that we didn't know that the effects of burning fossil fuels on the environment and on climate. Of course, well, maybe some people did, but at the regular folk level we didn't. And it wasn't until much later that I started to discover that, and had a hard time reconciling the two dads that I knew, because my dad was a climate change denier. He did not think it was man-made, and I couldn't wrap my head around that in line with the other dad I knew, the big environmentalist. But it really struck me that when your livelihood is so tied up in your life's work, it's very hard for people to come to grips with the destructiveness, I think, of what they've been doing, to understand and appreciate that change, as it was for my dad. And that knowledge has given me a really deep compassion for all the lives that are going to be changed as we make the transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. Many lives will be changed, many jobs will be changed and lost, so for me it's very important that we have a just transition in that process. But we must do the process. We can't ignore it any longer. The next part of my story but that's not how I became an activist. The next part of my story about how I became an activist is important, I think, because it involves a message of hope. In the 80s, as a graduate student, I was doing research on how people respond to information about nuclear holocaust and nuclear war. And in my research, I had to read a lot of articles about the destruction of the planet and the world from nuclear holocaust. And I became so depressed. It was like I had a Greta Thunberg type of moment where I thought, well, what's the point of carrying on with the future and finishing my studies and that if there is not going to be a future? We're all going to die. And in my young brain, I thought at the time, well, this could happen sooner than later. So I spent about 3 weeks in bed and wallowing in my despair until it occurred to me, I guess it's not going to happen tomorrow. And so I got up and decided, well, my only other alternative is I have to do something about this. So I joined a local community of activists that were working to stop building of nuclear weapons and proliferation and nuclear war talk. It was the height of the Cold War, of course. And the hope part comes from the fact that we didn't have a nuclear war or a nuclear holocaust. We somehow pulled back from that, from the brink of total destruction. And that has given me some perspective as I've gotten older, that even though this climate emergency is the biggest challenge I think we've ever faced as a species on our planet, I don't think it's hopeless. I do think we can collectively come together and make a difference and make a change. I think at some level politicians will have to listen to us and corporations will have to make changes because people will demand it and because the world will demand it. And the fact that we have been able to make some very big changes collectively when we've really needed to gives me hope. Even with this COVID-19 pandemic right now, the fact that we've been able to collectively make some pretty major changes in our society in terms of social distancing and that kind of thing, and the sacrifices people have had to do and given up. But we have survived it and we've done it. That all gives me hope. And that's the message that I want to end on. Thank you.